James, Cecil and Thomas Aitken. James Aitken was born in Brisbane in 1893. He was the son of James and Clara Aitken of Dorset Street, Ashgrove. He was living and working in Sydney as a clerk at the time of his enlistment in February 1916 and was destined to train for 6 months in Australia before sailing for overseas in August that year with reinforcements for the 18th Battalion, a New South Wales unit. James missed the bloodbath that consumed the AIF at Pozières, but not the bitter winter on the Somme that followed, the worst, it was said, for 50 years. While occupying the winter line near Fleur, Private Aitken received gunshot wounds in the back during a whole-of-battalion action to assault the German positions in Malt Trench, opposite the 18th Battalion, on the 26th of February 1917. In what would have been a Herculean task in the mud, James' comrades evacuated him to the rear, where he died in a casualty clearing station at a village that was to become famous in Australian military history. A little over a year later, James' brothers Cecil Crawford Aitken and Thomas Edward Aitken were serving in the 49th Battalion, a Queensland unit, and engaged in an epic defence of the same French village where their brother lay. That day, on the 5th of April 1918, 3 Australian battalions fought off 3 German divisions at a place called Dernancourt. Cecil was wounded and shipped to the UK for treatment. Both he and Thomas survived the war and returned to Australia in 1919. James, Cecil and Thomas's parents were to rename their house at Ashgrove Dernancourt, after that very village where Cecil and Thomas fought in defence of the old Amiens line and their brother's grave. James lies there today with the epitaph, "Until the day breaks and the shadows flee away."
John Aitken Campbell. John Campbell was born in Aberfoyle, Scotland in 1889. After his father seemingly absconded, young John was raised by his mother, Elizabeth, and his stepfather, John, from the age of 2, taking the latter's surname. The family migrated to Australia, and by the time of his enlistment in October 1915 at Fraser's Hill, now the Gallipoli Barracks at Enoggera, John was working as a tram conductor, an occupation synonymous with the Ithaca area, giving his address as Arthur Terrace, Red Hill. He'd had some training as a cadet and in the Citizens Military Forces, CMF, prior to the war, but nothing would prepare him or anyone else for war on the industrial scale of the Western Front. John was allocated to D Company, 9th Battalion, which was tasked to assault in the second wave of the attack on Pozières village on the 23rd of July 1916. The objectives were gained, but John was killed in action and his grave lost in the 8-week campaign. His mother experienced some struggles with officialdom, it appears. It was customary in those times to obtain your lost one's personal effects and war medals. As his mother, she could not be deemed next of kin unless proper inquiries had been made to establish that his absent father could not be found. That involved advertising in newspapers and waiting to see if there was a response. In the end, Elizabeth was the only applicant for her son's effects, and together with John's campaign medals, they were duly sent to Arthur Terrace. Private John Campbell is memorialised on the Villa Bretonneux Memorial in France.